Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It's a regular board meeting for the Lammersville Unified School District Board of Education. Tonight's June 15th, 2016. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and at this time, if you would please silence your cell phones, I would appreciate it. Please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Here.
Colin Clements.
Absent.
Sharon Lempel.
Here.
Shane Nielsen.
Here.
David Pombo.
Here.
Samantha D. Tiberis.
Absent.
Approval and/or corrections to the agenda?
There are none.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Committee reports. Item A, facilities use.
We haven't had a meeting since our last board meeting, but we do have one coming up. I hope it's in the calendar. I didn't see it there, though, so, but it's coming up next week on Tuesday.
Thank you. Item B, District Advisory Committee. There's no report. Item C, District English Language Advisory Committee.
No report.
Item D, Gate Arts Music.
No report.
Item E, Grant Writing.
No
No
report.
report.
Item F, Safety and Crisis Response. There's no report. And item G, Wellness.
No report.
Thank you.
Must be summertime.
It must be summertime.
Governing Board reports. Trustee Pombo.
Put me on the spot. I'm not used to going first. First of all, I would like to congratulate everyone on the passage of Measure L. I would also like to thank everyone who helped ensure its passage, all who walked neighborhoods and talked to voters, all that made phone calls, and all those who contributed monetarily to the campaign, and especially Committee Chair Danelle Faubert and Treasurer Caroline Davila for their tireless dedication to this endeavor. Without their efforts, we may have had a much different outcome. Secondly, some of you may have noticed the purple ribbons tied to trees around Mountain House, along with the purple shirt that I have on. Both are in recognition of the upcoming Relay for Life, which, although not a school district related item, it is something that is important to me and many others. Mountain House Relay for Life will be held this Saturday from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. at Wickland School. All are invited to attend. There will be food and entertainment along with auctions and raffles throughout the day. All proceeds benefit the American Cancer Society, and I hope to see you all there. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Trustee Lempel.
Yes. First, I want to start by saying I'm sorry I missed the public portion of the last meeting. I was in an 8th grade promotion ceremony in another district that was just as lovely as ours. The only thing I wanted to say tonight was to remind our public that when they have a concern, putting it on Facebook and threatening the district on Facebook gets no result whatsoever. If you have a concern, contact board members, contact the district. There are board policies that can be looked up on our website. Not just screaming on Facebook doesn't make the board policy show up on Facebook. So just remind everyone that there are procedures, and you can answer a lot of questions by following the right procedures. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Nielsen.
I'm going to start with a similar theme as to Mr. Pombo over there to thank the members of the committee who supported and worked tirelessly for Measure L. And while he didn't single out himself, I was going to specifically single out Mr. Pombo as well. When he talked about tireless efforts, he didn't include the fact that every single weekend there was a door-to-door walk. He was there. When there were phone calls to make, he was there, and his family was there. The efforts of Mrs. Faubert and Mrs. Davila and Mr. Pombo were instrumental in getting this passed. And I was very proud to serve on the committee and do far less work than all three of them did. And proud and honored that this community recognized the importance of this issue for this community. Granted, you know, someone told me they took this and realized that they had to vote this because there wasn't really much else they could do. And I had to remind that person that during the conversation at this dais with this group, every one of us expressed the exact same sentiment, that if we had alternatives or options, we would have pursued those. And we did pursue every alternative and option before turning to ourselves and the rest of the community to ask you to pay for all of this. I do believe that the community made a very good decision that will be the benefit of everyone in this community, not just the students and the parents, but everyone in this community, for the theater, for the pool, for a great number of things that this is going to provide. And for all the negativity that's out there and all the naysayers and everything else, the community stood up and said, we want to continue the work that these schools have done to provide a benefit to this community. And I'm thanking them for that, and will promise that over the next 6 months, we will work tirelessly to take those steps that we need to take to get these things moving as quickly as possible. And I do hope we'll hear some news on those fronts over the next few meetings as well. Again, to Mr. Pombo's discussion of Relay for Life as well, while it's not a district function, it is absolutely a wonderful community function. And if you've never gone, I do suggest you go at nightfall to see the Luminaria. If you're not emotionally moved by that event, I wouldn't understand. I've gone to a few myself and walked that circle for the members of my family who have passed as a result of cancer, but also I'm reminded, even though that's not the intent of that event, of my cousin who is a survivor and still living well past what they expected her with a retinoblastoma, and reminded it's about providing something both as a cathartic opportunity, but also as a positive opportunity to say, if we come together, like we do on Measure L, if we come together, we can do great things. And I do hope to see folks out there Saturday night. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. I know it's already been said twice, but I'll say it again. Thank you very much for everyone's effort. Ms. Faubert, Ms. Davila, our committee members from the board, Trustee Pombo, Trustee Nielsen. A lot of hard work went into making this happen. I'm very thankful that it did pass. But there's a lot of negative energy still surrounding the measure, a lot of misinformation that's out there, and I hope that over the next few months we can clear that up, because someone posted the article on Facebook and the negative comments following were discouraging, and most of them were incorrect. I think the school district has been extremely fiscally responsible, and in a lot of ways, this district has our hands tied as far as funding is concerned for construction, and I hope over the next few months that we can explain that and make it crystal clear for everyone in the community to understand. But I'm thankful for all the work that went into it, and I'm happy that it passed. I think, as I said from the beginning, it was going to be a community decision, and the community has spoken, so we can continue to give the community the wonderful facilities that we've had and will continue to have. So thank you.
May I suggest a round of applause for all those people that worked so hard?
Thank you. Receiving a public comment. Anyone that would like to speak, there's speaker cards in the back. We request that you fill it out. You would have 3 minutes at the podium to speak about any topic that's not covered on the agenda. And any remarks, we ask that they're geared towards the board and not individual board members. Anyone from the public have anything to add? Hearing none. Moving on to consent. Several items of consent. Item A is approval of the governing board meeting minutes from June 1st. Item B are the warrants. Item C is approval of contracts under $25,000. There's 1. Item D, approval of the 2016-17 hires. There's 5. Item E, acceptance of resignation. There's 1. And that's it. So we can, anyone would like to pull any of these, we can discuss individually or vote as all.
I'll move for approval of the consent items as presented.
Second.
Board discussion?
None.
Nope.
New hires?
After we vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
We have a hand in the audience.
Motion carries with 1 absent.
I'm quite new, so I have a few questions regarding the Measure L, but I'm not sure when to ask and which section will cover that.
Okay, we have a public comment time that we just had. At that point, you can make comments, but if there's no question and answer period. If you'd like to ask questions, the superintendent's here following the meeting. You can.
Dr. Gilly, would you like to step over and take his number and we can?
Sure, thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm sorry, this is a formal meeting. There's really no back and forth.
First time, so I do not know the procedure.
Not a problem, not a problem. Thank you.
So I'd like to welcome some new staff members that we just approved. Lisa Aruiza De Leon, high school staff secretary. Laura Faber, self-contained classroom teacher. Juan Luis Martinez, custodian. J.P. Morgan Shapsis, English teacher. And Mary Murphy, chemistry teacher. So I'd like to welcome all of those folks to our Lammersville family.
Welcome.
Thank you. District Administrative Reports, item A, Superintendent's Report.
I just have a couple of short things to say. Again, I think the board was very articulate in thanking everyone and celebrating the success of Measure L. And again, pointing out Danelle Faubert and Caroline Davila, staff members both at the site and district office, including people here in this room. The one thing I'll add is, as the marathon man here to my right in the purple, Mr. Pombo, I took my kids out. I didn't walk very much, but I thought of it as a great opportunity to teach community service, but with a 7 and 9-year-old, that was overreach on my part. But I do know that Mr. Pombo walked with his kids who are much older, and I think parents teaching their kids about community service and how to give back is a really awesome thing. And when you tie it to a democratic process and an election, pretty dang cool. So anybody who drugged their kids out, other than me, who was caving in very quickly, kudos. The other thing is with a successful election does not lead immediately to a building being built. So I want to just explain to the board and to the community, there is a lot of work going on and a lot of work that has to go on to prepare to build buildings. And we are working very hard on that. Just some examples. It's very important. We continue to work with our friends at Trimark Sunchase Holdings, and we're resolving the conflict in language. We're organizing to create a citizens oversight committee. We are analyzing programs and career pathways in the facilities that we have and the facilities that we can build and programs we can put into the buildings. We're validating designs kindergarten through 12th grade and identifying any equipment updates and things like that. And we're reviewing plans and procurement processes. So none of that stuff is exciting, but it all has to be done because once the concrete gets poured, it's there. So I want to assure the board and everyone else that there's a lot of preparation work going on, but it needed to be said. So, Mr. President, that's my presentation.
Thank you. Item B, District Maintenance and Operations Report. Mr. LeGrand.
Good evening. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited about the bond too. Just thought I'd throw it in there. Summer cleans progressing all the sites. There's been a few little hiccups, nothing major. Everyone's on schedule so far. The carpet replacement at Altamont is complete except for the admin building. That's scheduled to start later this week. I'll be happy to put that behind me. And I was out at the tennis court site work project day. They're done. So ahead of schedule, which is good news. And I'm happy to respond to any questions.
Any questions from the board? Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Moving along, thank you.
Item C, Cafeteria Year-End Report. Mrs. Bernie Hill.
Before I start with that, hey. I did. Thanks. I think in your board packet you have the financials. Those do not include June. June, we have some expenses, obviously, payroll, those expenses, and indirect costs. By the time we're done, we'll probably be somewhere around $100K in the black, which sounds like a lot of money. We'll suck through that next year as the high school continues to grow. We're going to have a lot more expenses. As you can see, our participation from last year to this year, it mirrors. We're doing about the same thing. It's just increased based on the increase in the number of meals and the student population that we have here. Free and reduced is 14% district-wide, really low, so I'm very proud that we serve 1,700 lunch meals every day. My staff works tirelessly to get those meals out. Breakfast is a challenge. I didn't even put breakfast numbers up there. I'm ashamed of our breakfast numbers, but I'm hoping that maybe next year we'll have a little bit of increase. Summer school's doing breakfast. Maybe the kids will see what we serve and be a little more interested. So what's new? Following what our district is doing, we have technology that I brought into the kitchen. Rather than using paper and pencil, which drove me insane when I started this job, I found some software. I have put Chromebooks into the kitchens, and I am encouraging my staff to learn how to use those items. Some of them have embraced it, they like it. Some of them are scared, but they're overcoming their fear. All of the kitchens except for the high school are online for breakfast. 2 kitchens piloted for lunch. They have been pretty successful, and we're gonna open everything up, K through 8 and high school, to using the technology when we open the school year. The high school snack shack's gonna open. I'm really excited about that and nervous at the same time. Ben and I talk a lot about it. We'll see what happens. I am very proud that all but 2 of my employees are ServSafe manager trained, so they can all be accountable for a kitchen should we have personnel changes. So we have complied with the new USDA rules first year out, so I'm really excited about that. We're gonna have 5 additional employees that I'm in the process of hiring for. We've hired 2 or made offers to 2 people this week. We'll continue to work on that this summer. And we're up for our administrative review, which is our audit. I'll be honest with you, I'm scared to death. But I'm hoping to learn a lot. I'm sure that there's a lot of holes in my system, but I'm looking forward to figuring out what they are and working through them. This year, one of our challenges has been a concern that a lot of parents have brought to me, and that's waste, a lot of food waste. USDA requires us to force a kid to take a fruit or vegetable. It's gonna get worse. Next year, they're forcing them to take a fruit and a vegetable. That's a lot of waste because the kids don't always eat it. Some of them are great. They take a full salad, they're wonderful, it's beautiful. A lot of it goes in the trash, and it makes me really sad. So we've started at a couple of sites what's called a sharing table. It's where a kid, once they pass the cashier at the high school or they pass the salad bar or whatever, they have it on their plate. If it's packaged or it has a peel that's not eaten, they can put it in a bin. That food is there available for any child to come and take if they like. Their milk is included. So if a kid who's having cold lunch wants an extra milk and there's a milk in there, they can take it. Otherwise, we can bring it back in the kitchen, and we can legally do that. So I'm excited that that we're starting that. The high school, we do it, and we find that the bin is empty. I'm shocked. Most of the kids come and take it. What's really been neat is we went to the high school graphics department, and we asked them, we said, here's the parameters, and we said, make us some posters. These are example of 2 of the posters. They were really creative, and they seemed to have a good time with it. So I'm really proud that our students have a buy-in in this. In addition, Mr. Lee's class, I think I was joking with him. I saw his 3D printer, and I said, I want a logo. I think that would be really cool. So he put the challenge up to one of his elective classes and asked them to come up with a logo for the food service department, and they printed it on their 3D printers, and they colored them. And this doesn't do them justice. They're sitting in my office. But the kids came up with a couple of different things. They found out that oil-based paints don't work because they don't soak into the plastic. So when you touch it, it comes off on your fingers. I really like this one. And this one's really neat.
Oh, that's cute.
Because it says food services. You can't see the food on the back side. But I thought that one was really adorable. So I've been really excited to see some of the kids get involved. You know, they always want school lunch. We don't really like school lunch, but it's been nice to involve them in the process, and I've had fun with them this year. I miss them. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to ask.
You said, excuse me, with the sharing table that fruits and vegetables that have a peel that you don't eat, so that means an orange is okay, but an apple is not.
Correct. So, and what I failed to mention is I've changed our apples to bagged sliced apples. I find the kids are more willing to eat them. They do cost me more money, but because I can bring them back into the kitchen, the sharing table I'm hoping can offset some of that. So no, bananas yes, apples no, but anything else that's packaged can go back in.
And I wouldn't be too disappointed about your breakfast numbers. I think it's just indicative that a lot of our kids are eating at home for breakfast.
They are.
Or sleeping every minute
Or
that they can
I
before
think
they
that's
come to
more
school.
They're
likely.
eating breakfast at home and starting the day nice and healthy.
Exactly. I think that is, but.
I just, as someone who's been on this board for longer than necessary.
Don't say that.
To think about where we were when we first got on this board, and I'm not kidding you, we were going over raising costs, raising fees,
I know.
raising prices, finding different options, because we ended up at the end of every year so far in the black that in the red, that it was terrible to see the steps that you've taken, and not just on the numbers side. The school lunches that you're giving are not the school lunches that were here 13 years ago, and the options that the kids have today are amazing. And I thank you and your staff for all of that hard work, because it is a far cry from where we were, and I am very excited to see where you're going to continue to take this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And don't worry about your audit.
Yeah,
It's a report card, and you can, what
I
can
know,
you
I
do with a
like to
report
have the
card?
report card.
You can improve.
there you go.
So don't worry about it. You're awesome, and it's not going to be anything big.
Thank you.
Trustee Nielsen stole a lot of my thunder, but
Oh.
again, I also, I remember those days, and you've brought this to a whole new level. It's truly a professional department, and you're producing great work and good meals, and the numbers speak for themselves. So you
Great.
should be commended. Thank you very much for everything you've done, and thank your staff as well.
Thank you, I will. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You're good at that.
I am good at thunder stealing. It is true.
Action items. Item A, consider approval of 2016-17 inter-district transfer requests. Any staff report?
We do have a corrected, amended document here. There was one change where an approval is now pending. But other than that, that is it.
I move we approve the 16-17 inter and intra-district transfer requests.
Second.
Any board discussion?
I just want to point out that this is an issue that's received some attention of note recently, and I just want to point out that when we're going through and approving student transfers, it's looking at a totality of circumstances. There's never a always yes or always no. Personal perspective, an always yes or always no policy is about the least productive thing you can have in government. You have to look at the totality of the circumstances, and when we're saying yeses and nos, we're looking at enrollment, programs, functions, relationships, and a whole lot of other things. And I just want to point out that while we don't always talk about all of those things happening, they're happening in the background, usually before they even get to us. They've been thought about between administration at the district level, administration at the school levels, talks with the teachers and the staff to try to figure out what the best thing is for everyone involved. And I hope that the community and the people who question these decisions think about blanket all yes and all no policies as not being very productive. So,
I'd also, are you done?
No, I'm
sorry.
done, yes.
I'd also like to add that when people who don't work in education hear that we have students transferring out of Lammersville, oh my goodness. Well, we also have children transferring into Lammersville, and this is very typical. The percentages of what we have going in and out are comparable to other districts.
actually, I would say that especially into the Lammersville school specifically, if you see the number of students who ask to go to that tiny little school, you would probably be amazed at how many people
that
want
one
to come
does
in
skew our
to
numbers
that
quite a
tiny
bit.
little school. So it is, I believe it's a function of what that school provides as a unique opportunity for students. And I'm glad to see the community in Tracy and surrounding areas want to send the kids to that school, so, and our schools.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item B, consider approval to adjourn from regular session to open public hearing on two items. Number one is collective bargaining proposals. Item A, 2016-17 California School Employee Association, Chapter 873, initial proposal to LUSD. And item B, 2016-17 Lammersville Unified School District's initial proposal to CSEA. Second item is naming of neighborhood D, K-8 Elementary School. This is to go into open public hearing.
Go ahead. I'll move to adjourn from public session and open public hearing on the three items listed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. We're now in public hearing for item number one, collective bargaining proposals. And item two, naming of neighborhood D, K-8 elementary schools. Any further from staff?
I'll speak, the first item is a sunshine proposal, is the common term. It's the initial procedural step to a negotiation season, and both sides put together their big ideas, and that's what's brought forward. So that's one. Number two, the formal process in this community master plan is as they develop a neighborhood, a school has to be named, and that leads to the naming of the neighborhood. So the second piece is really around allowing the developers in neighborhood D to get a name for their neighborhood, and that the process is to start with the school.
Have we discussed or reviewed the implementation of a naming committee like we've?
Yeah, so there's a naming committee that took, I think there were 2 or 3 meetings. We studied some history books. In fact, it's interesting, a student did a paper from Escalon High School of all places, and the winner of this was a person who had purchased and contributed the original schoolhouse, originally from one location to another and ultimately to a park in Tracy, and was by far the most, the focus is to pick someone of historical value to the community. So that's part of it. So yeah, it was an interesting experience, but in the end, there's no specific effort to make a school happen in D. It's simply a matter of first step for them to name a school, a community.
Yeah, just wanted to point that out.
I have a question on the CSEA Sunshine. Is the whole contract up, or is this just yearly openers? Yearly openers? Okay. I was
So
just
we'll say
curious.
yearly openers.
Okay.
Item C, consider approval to close public hearing and return to regular session.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gotta speed up, David.
Motion carries with 1 absent. Item D, consider approval to sunshine initial collective bargaining proposals for the 2016-17 school year. Collective bargaining proposals, item A, 2016-17, California School Employee Association, Chapter 873, initial proposal LUSD. Item B, 2016-17 Lammersville Unified School District's initial proposal CSEA.
I move we approve the Sunshine initial collective bargaining proposal for the 2016-2017 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with 1 absent. Item E, consider approval of recommendation from the district school naming committee to name neighborhood D, Cade Elementary School, Julius Cortez, did we say?
Cordes.
Cordes.
It is Cordes, okay. Cordes Elementary. We were still going back and forth on that. Staff report?
Simply, it'll be known as Cordes Village. And I believe it's Italianate style is the architectural style.
I move we approve the recommendation of the district school naming committee to name neighborhood D, K-8 Elementary School, Julius Cordes Elementary.
Second.
Any board remarks or discussion?
I'd just like to say that I'm happy to see that name. Mr. Cordes was my neighbor for many years. He grew up in this school district. His family homesteaded some property over here in the Mountain House area in the 1880s, I believe. And just, I like to see when the schools have historical names like this, and that's it.
Well, and I'd like to thank the committee. I came into one of the committee meetings a little bit late. They were going one direction, and I changed the conversation and said exactly what you did, that I wanted to have something historical in value and especially something tied to the school district. So I thank the committee for entertaining my desires and ultimately going in that direction, so I appreciate that.
One more thing. One of my early memories of Mr. Cordes is him talking about seeing the glow in the sky in 1906 after the earthquake. He lived here in this area at that time, and he said that you could see that when San Francisco was burning in 1906, he as a 6-year-old could just see the sky glowing, and that was interesting historical perspective that he had.
I've just always appreciated how the district has approached this. I mean, it would be very simple for the 5 of us to decide what to do with these things going forward, or just to make it a district office decision and be done with it. But since I've been on the board after Wickland was named, it was always get involvement with the community, trying to get that information, and the turn towards historical names after the first couple of villages was, for me, a great opportunity to say, look, this is Lammersville School District and Lammersville community, and these are the people that affected it. I mean, you can go back to the first person to sign for the creation of the school district, the first female representative on the school board. Those are some of the names and historical values that were attached to some of these schools, and I'm hopeful that we're using that as an opportunity to provide that resource and information to our students, because the history of this community is more than just the last 13 years that we've lived here, and I'm glad to see us providing that information to the community. So thank you to the committee for all their work.
First and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item F, consider approval, ratification of employment agreement with superintendent. Any staff report?
None.
I move we approve to ratify the employment agreement with superintendent.
Second.
Board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item G, consider approval of 2016-17 Lammersville Unified School District, California Interscholastic Federation, CIF, alternative representative, and that's Mrs. Lavinia Woods. Staff report?
None.
I'll move for approval of the 16-17 Lammersville Unified School District, California Interscholastic Federation alternative representative as Mrs. Lavinia Woods, as we requested at the last meeting.
Second.
Any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item H, consider approval of the 2016-17 Local Control Accountability Plan Annual Review. Staff report?
I just want to thank all of the many hours of work that all the committee members, school sites, parents, teachers, staff, district staff, site staff that put into this. There's a kind of a battle going on about what the purpose of LCAP is, and is it a bureaucratic document controlled by county offices of ed, or are they actually truly local control? I feel like everybody who worked on it and all the people who had a chance to input on it, the annual review really reflects what we're really doing. And LCAP is working for us, but we're harnessing it into what was originally the strategic plan, and we just keep amending it. So I just want to thank everybody. Dr. Gill led the way and coordinated a lot of things, but also each board member served on committees that had a significant role in this. And then site principals and the communication they did with their communities as well.
I'll move for approval of the 16-17 Local Control Accountability Plan Annual Review.
Second.
Board discussion?
I'd just like to make a point so everybody knows that, the staff heads up these meetings, collects all this information from the public. They go back, they work on it, it's done, it looks beautiful, and then the state government says, oh no, we're going to change this piece, and we're going to change that piece, and we're going to change another piece. And a lot of work goes into producing this document, not just, oh, it's this boilerplate stuff. So I'd like to commend staff on all of your hard work with the committees and being patient with all the changes from the state.
And not to mention the county as well. There's another layer that goes to the county, and first they do their doctoring and send it back a few times, and so it is a long process.
It is.
I also, for the board, I received an email from CSBA yesterday saying that the recommendations that were made at Delegate Assembly to try and improve this process were submitted to the State Board of Education. So as we try to improve this for version 3.0, as they're calling it, hopefully some of our recommendations will be heard.
The one thing I'll add to this is the state and the county are going to tell us we have to do this, we have to do that. We keep tying everything back to the plan we set out for this school district and our strategic plan so long ago. And while a document that we worked very hard on with a lot of community input and staff input and everything else, with the recognition that it's still a living, breathing document, and it's never, ever done. Today, what we do is not what we'll do next year or 2 years from now or 3 years from now. And I'm glad to see we haven't lost our focus on the overarching goals and continue to tie these things back to that work. A lot of tireless work that staff and board members put into that, and I just wanted to express my appreciation for all of that. And the next couple of items specifically, being a board member is a ton of fun when you get to review 260 pages of financial paperwork and state mandated documents, and I enjoy every minute of it.
So, everything about LCAP is not negative. As a 38-plus year person who has worked in education, we get all these things from the state and the feds, and for years and years it was, another binder on the shelf, another binder on the shelf. There was never anything to bring all of it together. And LCAP really, it gets much closer to what we need it to be. It's not quite there yet, but it gets much closer to bring all of these plans together in one document that drives the district and is totally aligned with our strategic plan.
And in light of some of the comments being made in the public, this document proves that this district is fiscally responsible. We spent a lot of time and energy. Alvina, thank you for all that you do especially, but putting these documents together, showing where every cent is going, and making sure that it's going towards educating our students. So we are absolutely fiscally responsible. The county and the state make sure of it. I have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item I, consider approval of 2016-17 July 1 budget financial report. Staff report.
I'll defer to our chief business official.
I know that we had a public hearing on Monday. Thank you for all of those that attended. The budget was available for public review as of last Thursday morning. There's a budget snapshot that begins on page 146, and there's some copies in the back. The details, I know they're available in our office if anyone wishes to see that. I have a couple people in the audience who have had the luxury of looking at some of our account strings that we use. And if you notice on page 147 of your document, it discusses the revenue portion of the general fund. Proposition 30 brings into this district an estimated $6.5 million. So I want to encourage that when they talk about extending that Prop 30, that we want to continue having those dollars flow into the district. It is based on sales tax that was received throughout the state of California, as well as the high income tax. They mentioned that if Prop 30 does not continue, that there could be the possibility of a deficit factor being applied again, like we used to have years ago, where they only provided so many cents per dollar. I hope that doesn't happen. There's also some information in this packet about some of the expenses that have been hit. Special education, we've had some growth, some identified non-public school, non-public agencies. The SELPA dollars have been reduced from the county. They have additional programs that they needed to start. So I know Julie Corona is working closely with the county to try to encourage that we're not having to start new programs here, that we can implement and use some of the programs they have there. We do maintain our 3% reserve over the next 3 years. And then lastly, the pages 273 on are the detailed by federal, state, local, and as well as each expense items and the change from year to year for the next 2 years.
If I could just add one point, I want to be really clear to the board and the community. What Alvina's talking about in terms of Prop 30 is there's an extension of what was a temporary sales tax that has been funding schools since the budget crisis. A vote yes in November means it will extend out to, I believe, 2032 and be able to go to all public schools. If it doesn't pass, that money disappears. When you add that to the fact that LCFF funding for this district is some of the lowest in the local region, and the state's decision to pass on CalSTRS and CalPERS's deficits to school districts to pay out of their general fund for people's retirements, both on the classified and certificated front, that's a big, big deal. Prop 30's extension will help significantly absorb what would be really a catastrophic hit if it doesn't pass. So vote, I can't advocate, sorry. Retract that, sir.
No, but I can. I'd like to piggyback on what the
Ignore the red
superintendent
face.
is talking about and repeat what I said on Monday when we had our hearing. Prop 30 started out as a half-cent sales tax to help schools during the budget crisis. When it expired, the governor said, oh no, I'm not making that decision. Let's put it out to the voters. The voters heard us, all school districts, that said, this is not additional money, this is a continuation of something we're already getting. And the voters said yes. And it moved to an expiration. And we had to go through all of that again and explain yet again, this is no additional money for the district. If it doesn't pass, we're going to be hurting bad. We're in the same exact place again because the governor yet again, different governor this time, will not just say, I'm going to sign off on this, I'm going to put it out to the voters. So I'm hearing things in Lammersville that, oh, so we passed the bond, it's not enough, now they need the half-cent sales tax. It's not an additional tax. You're already paying it, and it's money that the school district is counting on to balance those books because we are fiscally responsible. Ms. Kaiser, I'd like to ask you a question, even though I know the answer. Is there any chance that our budget will get a negative rating from the county?
Never.
Is there any chance that our budget will get a qualified rating from the county?
I will not allow that.
Is there any chance that our budget will get a positive rating from the county?
It has been the last 10 years I've been here.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
And I just want to, you mentioned Measure L. I want to make it abundantly clear. Measure L money is specific to construction projects only. It cannot be used for teacher salary, cannot be used for anything else but the projects listed in the measure.
Not teacher salary, not administrator salary, not anybody's salary, not crossing guard salary, nothing but buildings and the items that were listed in the measure. While I understand we can't advocate for positions, I will explain this about as clearly as I can. Prop 30 is a continuation of the existing tax, and if you don't like it, I get it, vote no, and see a 20% hit to this school district's budget, 20%.
And then the other
We
piece
would
of
have to
that,
then go back to all of the teachers, staff, and programs and say, all right, we need it back. Give us back $6.5 million. Figure it out. And not over time, now. That money goes away next year. So how do we make that $6.5 million back? That's the proposal that you have to decide for yourself. I know what my vote will be, but I'm not allowed to advocate, so I won't. But I will also say that this 180-page document is not the product of days or even weeks of work. It is the product of what has been a consistent program by our CBO and her staff over years to make sure we are what we say we are, which is fiscally responsible. I can tell you I'm fiscally responsible all day long. You can see it in the papers. You can see every single penny that comes in and every single penny that comes out if you so choose. And everyone who's actually ever taken the time comes back to me and says, I had no idea. Thank you. So again, if you'd like it, we can get you a copy. You know, we'll back up the truck and drop it off on your front door. I'll personally drop it and happy to do so. The hard work of our administrative team here to make sure we stay on budget is critical and not always the easiest task with some people specifically. And I just want to thank them all for the hard work and to continue to get us these kinds of budgets.
You're welcome.
Get you a button that says, I'm
I
positive.
still want a crown.
Yes, ma'am. We will get you a
we do need to get it. And along the same lines, I mean, we're a public agency, so all of our documents are public. This budget's listed on our website. It's accessible. Our board packet in full listed on the website. So
Actually,
everything's there for your liking. I also want to mention the reserve cap. CSBA is pushing SB 799. I'm going to be going next week in my role as part of the board of directors to a assembly committee meeting to fight for them to repeal the current policy. So hopefully that's, at least if something does happen, we start losing money, at least we have our reserves to rely on. With that, I need a motion.
I move we approve the 2016-2017 July 1st budget financial reports.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item J, consider approval of 2016-17 Facility Use Rental Policy Handbook. Staff report.
I have none. Alvina?
It was kind of nice to review the whole packet again. I had two other members take a look at it, the recommendation of someone. And then I took a look at it again and still found some additional changes to make to it. So I'm pleased and excited that we are opening up the facilities for availability year-round. Of course, if the facilities are not being cleaned or maintained for a particular purpose. But Jimmy LeGrand has kind of taken the lead on that, so it's been a pleasure. And you have, this is all 7 amendments that have been previously brought to you.
And I want to say, I like this process of the committee working on amendments, bringing us amendments, and then it all gets folded together. Because I've seen contracts where there's amendments and people forget there's amendments and they fall off and then something happens and they're like, but this from 6 years ago. So I like the way we're bringing it all together once a year.
It's nice.
And as the head of the committee, I'll just thank the members who serve on the committee, as well as the members of the public who serve on the committee. It's to me, it's an invaluable resource to get information. You know, I can sit here and say what I think is happening, but when you get the boots on the ground, we're actually doing the things, the members of the school foundations and the parents and the athletic teams that are coming in and talking to us about it, it really does help from my perspective, and I think for all of the committee members' perspective, to hear that when we're making decisions that we think make some sense until you start applying it in a real-world sense. So thank you to everybody for your hard work and input as well.
Yeah, my thanks as well. I sat on the committee, so I know what it's like. I'm glad I'm not there this year. Thank you, everyone, for the work you're doing.
I move we approve the 2016-2017 Facilities Use Rental Policy Handbook.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, one absent. Item K, consider approval of 2016-17 agreement with Child Development Center. Staff report?
This is an annual renewal. It's the program over at Wickland.
And just confirming that section's in there. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll move for approval of the 2016-2017 agreement with the Child Development Center.
Second.
Any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item L, consider approval of Governing Board Resolution 1516-17 regarding the Education Protection Account 2016-17. Staff report?
I'll defer to Alvina.
This is the Proposition 30 that we spoke of, and it will let, there are 2 pages telling you that we received $5.5 million in the 15-16 year towards that LCFF calculation. And then for the 16-17, right now the estimates are at 6.5. Could change. I've been watching that increase, that contribution increase each year.
Is there a motion?
I move we approve the Governing Board Resolution 1516-17 regarding the Education Protection Account.
Second.
Any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Roll call.
Matthew Balzerini.
Aye.
Colin Clements.
Absent.
Sharon Lampel.
Aye.
Shane Nielsen.
Aye.
David Pombo.
Aye.
Item M, consider approval of
Gatsby.
GASB report.
Alvina?
It's been a tough month, so let's see. Now we've got the actuarial report. As you know, that the CSEA and the LTA agreements have in their retiree benefits when they retire with the district, depending on how old they are and how long they've been working in the district, provides them the amount of the cap on this chart that is applied towards employee-only coverage. So with that being said, we're required every 3rd year to have this study done now because of the size of our district that states what they think we should be putting aside each year or booking as a future liability to the district. So with that being said, we're not required to meet the full amount that this is saying, but they just want us to make sure that that liability is known should everybody stay here in this district when they retire at that time. Any questions?
State regulation.
Yes. They collect a lot of data from us to compile this report.
I'll move for approval of the actuarial report on GASB 45 retiree benefit valuation.
Second.
Any board discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Item N, consider approval of Mount House High School facilities use overnight stay exception. Staff report?
I'm going to have Principal Faubert come up and explain.
This is an item that came up in one of the Facilities Use Committee meetings about the possibility of outside student-based organization and nonprofit organizations that support students to come and possibly use our facilities as an overnight stay place to cut costs for their programs that they run. And the decision was to not put something forward to put into the book, to the handbook, but when these opportunities were to come forward, that they would come forward to the board for special approval as an exception. So this is an opportunity that we have to host drum and bugle corps that have students from the age of 15 all the way through early college, students who are participating in professional marching bands, basically, to come and stay on the floor in the gym overnight so that they don't have to rent, 100 different hotel rooms and spend all that money. They're all nonprofit organizations. They all have insurance. They all know that they would be paying a rental fee or a fee for custodial services or whatever the district decides to do. It's good for us, especially with drum and bugle corps. They would be coming to our town, and in fact, one of the opportunities is for, I believe, 4 of those drum and bugle corps to come to our campus and actually perform and compete against one another right here in Mountain House. We're talking about hundreds of participants and potentially thousands of people visiting our town. So it's an opportunity to showcase our campus. It's an opportunity to for people to know who we are and where we are. Again, we've always talked about the advantageous location that we're in between the Bay Area and the Central Valley. It would be people coming up from Southern California, from Arizona, from Concord, from Santa Clara to come and perform. These are top-notch groups that we'd be able to see right here in our very own hometown. And if you've never seen a drum and bugle corps performance, I would encourage you to go on to dci.com and look up some of their, or .org, and look at some of the performances that those groups do. They're just amazing. And to have our kids see those organizations. I tried out for the Santa Clara Vanguard when I was in high school. I made it in. I didn't end up performing with them. I had other obligations with family and church and things like that. But I practiced for a couple of months with them, and it's just an awesome organization to be a part of. And the opportunity to have them come through here, I know that it would be a dedication of our district staff to host them, but as an opportunity on a time-to-time basis, especially in the future, looking at, for example, when I was in Pleasanton, our football team would go far away for an away game up north somewhere. And in order to go to that game, they would have to rent hotel rooms to be able to stay overnight so they didn't have to, drive through the night to come back. They would go away and stay in somebody's gym and sleep on the floor. So many districts do this. I know Pleasanton does it. Their own students go away and stay places. People come to Pleasanton and stay. Some districts don't. And I know that our insurance folks have said you can do it, but they don't necessarily advise for it, but that you can. We put some, as you see in the packet, some potential rules for those organizations to follow as they're on our campus. They do, again, have insurance of their own, would be responsible for any kind of damage that would be done. It would mean using the gyms. It would mean using the locker rooms and the restrooms for them to stay. They do have chaperones that come with their groups, quite a few actually, adult chaperones. I think there's like 50 per group team. There's a lot of coaches that come, and so there's a lot of supervision, and they're used to doing this kind of stay. They actually, in the summertime, is their season because all the kids are out of school. They usually start in May, and they finish their season in August. They travel literally across the entire country, from the West Coast to the East Coast, and they hop across the nation, staying in high school gyms all over the place before they come home at the end of the season after DCI championships. So it's a good opportunity for us, and we wanted to present that to the board for potential approval.
So I'd like to say that I have experience with this kind of stuff in another district where they stayed in our schools every summer, and there was never a problem because, like Mr. Faubert said, this group is used to staying in schools. The performers are used to this. The chaperones, the coaches, whatever they're called, the music teachers, they're used to this. This is not something new. It's just using our facilities that's new, and I've never heard of a problem with this particular group. 10 years, I think they did that in a district that I previously worked in. So I'm behind it. I think it's a great idea. And, okay, I'm not going to be smarmy. I was going to say something about us not having any stores and they can go shopping downtown.
I was going to do that.
So will we have some vendors that are dedicated to our schools and our community, so you'll be inviting
Yes.
them in so they can take
So
advantage of this?
our VAPA boosters are already working and have already started contacting food truck
Great.
vendors to come and park
Great.
themselves here. It's an
want
opportunity
our
for the
regular
community to come
vendors
in,
to
to
be
have
able
dinner,
to-
to see
yeah.
a show, and all that. Yes, so it's already in the works.
And then we'll send them downtown.
And then we'll send them downtown, right
Just
over in
to-
the dirt patch.
To piggyback a little bit on what Ms. Lampel said, these are nationally known organizations. I mean, the Concord Blue Devils have been around since I was in high school and have always been a nationally known organization. And they have a vested interest in making sure they don't do anything stupid on these stays because
wanna come
that
back.
word travels. And it won't not just come back here.
Yeah,
it
that's
will
true.
go from school to school, and people will find out you've got a reputation to do these things. And suddenly what amounts to a few, dollars per student will become a few $100s per student on every single stop along the way. And I'll echo what Mr. Faubert said. If you've never seen this, it is an unbelievable sight. Just Google some of these and watch their videos. They don't do them justice because seeing it and experiencing it live, it is Ohio State marching band type stuff. It is unbelievable precision and music and entertainment, and I'm looking forward to going
Talking
out
about
and seeing it.
125 players and color guard out on the field all
Moving
at
in
once.
unison.
It
is
amazing.
It is fantastic to watch, and I'm glad to see us allow for that opportunity. So thank you for bringing this.
Any comments? My initial concern, of course, is just supervision, but it sounds like that's covered, so I'm all for it.
I move we approve the Mountain House Facilities Use Overnight Stay Exception.
Second.
First and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. Calendar, please take note, our next board meeting, Wednesday, July 20th. There's facility use on June 21st. Momentarily, we're going to be adjourning to closed session where we're talking about public employee discipline dismissal release complaint. Item B, public employee appointment, evaluation superintendent. Item C, conference with labor negotiators. Item D, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. Item E, conference with legal counsel. Item F, conference with real property negotiators.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll move for adjournment to closed session.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries with one absent. We're now in closed session.